So on this very cold and wet day, we're gonna go in the garage and we're gonna do a fish dish. It's actually centuries old. It is absolutely amazing. It's very delicious, very hearty. It's a recipe that's been around for at least 300 years, but I think if you did more research, you'd realize in other countries it's been around a lot longer. So we're just gonna get in the garage, see what Mother's up to. So as you can see, this is hard bread, and it's just as hard as a rock, but I like breaking a piece off sometimes with your mouth, break a piece off and eat it. I love hard bread. And once we soak this overnight, it will rehydrate and it becomes what we call Brewis, and it's very soft. Once it's hydrated, it's soft. Doesn't matter how much water you put in there, it's only gonna soak up so much of that water. We're gonna soak it overnight, and then we'll have the soft Brewis that we're looking for our Fisherman's Brewis. So Mother has gone right to town. Mother, that's what we call Mother, or Mom is Mother, M-U-D-D-E-R, Mother. So Mother has gone right to town with the salt pork. Salt pork is the back fat of a pig. So it's just the skin, layer of skin, and it's the fat just right from the skin, and they cure it, they salt it, and it's very salty. We'll cut it up into little small chunks and we'll fry it out. And once it's fried out and brown and a little bit crunchy, we call it scrunchions. Scrunchions. That's what we call it here in Newfoundland. We have a lot of words, a lot of terms that you might not be familiar with, but it's a lot of Old English. There is some Irish and there is some Scottish as well, mixed in with our language. And it's a lot of old terms that's been used. And if you go back to England, a lot of the old parts of England, you'll find a lot of our words are still used. Mother cut up some onion. Mother cut up about a small to medium-sized onion, and it don't have to be in real small pieces. It can be fairly big. We're going to fry this up with the scrunchions, the salt pork. The thing about this wood stove is we have to keep that fire burning strong, so we're always adding wood and standing next to it. Our legs, oh my, our legs gets very hot. But that's the best thing about a wood stove. Once the heat is there, it doesn't drop. You keep that fire going and you get the consistent heat, and everything tastes better. Mom always says everything tastes better cooked over the stove, and it's because you have that constant heat. The heat don't drop, it cooks differently.
You wouldn't know what you sweat.
Well, I gotta make it look good for the video.
Yeah, exactly.
We want our onion good and soft, and those pork scrunchions going to be incredible. So a little bit of history on Fisherman's Brewis. Well, fish and Brewis, basically the same thing, only Fisherman's Brewis, we're going to mix everything together. And I find that better because you get the perfect taste of all the ingredients. Every taste you take, every bite you take, you got the perfect combination of all the ingredients. This recipe goes back to the 1700s, 1766. And the reason why this is such an old recipe is because of our hard bread. Can be stored for long periods of time, especially on the fishing boats, along with the fish. We're not using saltfish, we're using cornfish, which is lightly salted. It's only put into a brine for several hours. And saltfish is actually dried out in the sun with coarse salt added to the fish. It's spread out, it's cut open, spread out. The salt is added to the top of it and it's dried outside. And that saltfish can last for an extremely long period of time, so it's perfect for the fishing boats. And this meal is very hearty and very healthy, except for the pork scrunchions. But it is a food, it is a meal that gives the fishermen exactly what they need when they're out fishing, doing hard labor back in the 17, 18, and even the 1900s. So this is a delicious Newfoundland or a Newfie meal that's been served here for centuries. And I hope you give this a try, because it's something that is part of our history, it's part of our culture. And to be able to show you some of our foods and our delicious recipes has been a treat.
Says cooking, is that cooking?
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't try that one. I have to see, is it up to your standards? I have to see, is it up to your standards? Oh yeah, it's boiling.
Now,
Is it up to your standard?
not bad.
Oh, you could have done better?
Yeah,
What would you done better? What would you done different?
I would have fried the pork a little bit.
A little bit more?
Yeah, but I'm not.
Okay. I'm starting to wonder, is mother more like father or father more like mother? I'm telling you, starting to wonder. So we don't want to add too much salt to the brews because there's a lot of salt in our salt pork. Spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down. Now we're going to move our fish over to the counter because we're going to get ready to start mixing everything together. Look at that bruise, beautiful. So we're going to drain our bruise. We want to get the water out of the pot and just have the bruise alone. We kind of cook too much bruise. We want to have about 4 fillets of codfish versus 3 cakes off the bruise, off the hard bread. We prefer more of a ratio of codfish to the bruise. This is codfish that was caught right here in Newfoundland. This is not processed fish that you get on a trawler or overseas. This is actually Newfoundland cod caught right here. It is as fresh as you're going to get it, except unless you took it right out of the water. And summertime, when the cod fishery is open, we catch our own cod, and it is absolutely magnificent to be able to take that fish, cook it right out of the water. It's incredible to be living in this province. Now we're going to take out the cod, place it in a bowl. We want to strain off as much water as possible. And now we're going to add the bruise. We're not going to add all this bruise, but we're going to add enough to get the perfect ratio from fish to bruise. I'm just going to dump this water outside. I was given instructions on where, but I always don't follow instructions that good. We're going to mash this together, and it's just like a potato masher, vegetable masher. I don't know really what you call it. It's just a masher. And we're going to mash everything up into very small bits and pieces because we don't want any chunks. We want everything mixed together perfectly. We're going to add that grease, that bacon. Well, it's like bacon. It's grease. Tastes like bacon. Smells like bacon. A little more saltier than bacon. And we're going to add that grease along with our scrunchions and our onions. Mix everything together, and you know what? We're done. Very simple, very easy, very hearty, very filling. This meal is very, very filling, and you're going to understand why this is such an old recipe. No, it's good. Of course, really good. And it tastes incredible. It is a wonderful, wonderful dish. Part of our culture, part of our heritage, part of our tradition. Really amazing when you have some really old recipes that's centuries old, and people are still cooking it and still enjoying it and still loving it. Now it's time for a real good taste test. It's not wet, it's very dry, very, very delicious. Wow. Perfect combination of bruise. And I mean, this right here, this is the bruise. That was really hard, but the water soaked in and it's very spongy right now. Very soft. So you chunk that up and you can't even tell really what bruise and what fish. It's in very, very, very small, tiny pieces. So you'll always get the perfect bite, the perfect taste, mixed in absolutely perfect. You also got your onion, and you can't even see your onion. It's all mixed in really well. Same with your scrunchions, your salt pork. Perfect combination. And I love this better than having it separate, because you can have fish, bruise, potato with your onion and some melted butter. over your potatoes. That's a meal we're going to do as well later. So when it comes to the brews, a lot of people will take molasses. And this is the light molasses, it's not the dark molasses. They'll take the molasses and they'll pour just a little bit over their brews. That's a lot. Just a bit. That's a lot. Enough for a couple pieces. Molasses. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Some more fish, Fisherman brews, and some extra brews, and some molasses. Can't go wrong with Newfie grub. Newfie grub, Newfie food. I'm gonna have a scoff. Scoff, lots of food, which you always got to have leftovers. If you enjoyed this recipe, if you enjoyed this video, check out the baked beans recipe, the baked beans video, centuries old. If you enjoyed this, definitely gonna enjoy the baked beans. And we're gonna see you in our next video.